Hey boys and girls, Miss Kokenhauer and Lucy here for a special presentation on geckos versus salamanders and also comparing them to Luci the Axolotl. My family actually has two geckos in our house as well. We have Babette and Blaze. Right now on cam, you're seeing Babette, and she is being fed. So let's zoom in a little closer and see her on the big screen. All right, so this is Babette, and then Lucy's over here chilling too. It's a live feed of her as well on our Arlos. And as you can see looking at it, Babette lives in an aquarium without water. She has a tank, is what we call this one. And Lucy has the aquarium, and that one does have water. You can also see that Babette has a bumpy skin, whereas Lucy has a very slimy, smooth skin. Babette is a little more active than Lucy, especially around feeding time. She goes after those worms. She's eating super worms and mealworms for her lunch today. All right, and now we're going to zoom over and check out Blaze, which is our second gecko. This is Mr. Blaze. We actually got him first, and he used to go into my brick and mortar classroom. And Blaze is pretty old. He's 9 years old. I've had him for a while. So he's looking a little bit more skinny because he's older. But we still love our Blaze. And he's eating the same. He's eating super worms and mealworms. So, unlike Lucy, these guys can eat hard-shelled worms and bugs. Lucy can't have anything with a shell to eat because it will block her intestines. So she gets the soft worms like earthworms and bloodworms, versus Blaze and Babette are fed with mealworms and super worms. All right, just a little bit of information with our lesson today. So today's book is Can You Tell a Gecko from a Salamander by Buffy Silverman. And I'm reading this through the app called Epic. Let me move myself down here so that you're still able to see our friends, Blaze and Lucy, and then you can still see our book. Geckos and salamanders look a lot alike. Long tails stretch from their thin bodies. They walk on 4 short legs. See, just like my stuffed animal Lucy has 4 legs, and you can clearly see Blaze over here has 4 legs, and Lucy, you can see her front too, but we've seen her enough. We know she's had 4 legs too. They hunt insects, spiders, and worms. Their teeth grip their prey, then they swallow. All right, so if we look at the thing here, it says this animal is called a day gecko. So my geckos are leopard geckos. This worm became prey for a salamander. Prey are different animals that another animal hunts and eats. But you can tell them apart. Geckos are reptiles. Reptiles have dry skin. And if you look over here at Mr. Blaze, you can tell his skin is very dry. Their skin is covered with hard plates called scales. This gecko has scaly skin. Salamanders are amphibians. Most amphibians have moist skin. Their skin does not have scales. And you can see Lucy, she has a very smooth skin. And that was the thing we were worried about that got damaged when she hopped out of her tank, was the slime coat that protects her skin. Scales help hold water inside a gecko's body. They keep it from drying out, so geckos can live far from water. This Nampian web-footed gecko lives in the desert. Salamanders stay in damp places. They crawl through leaves or dig below the ground. They swim in streams. A spring salamander waves its body to swim in a stream. Sometimes when they do that, it makes them look like a snake swimming. Salamanders breathe through their skin. They need moist skin to breathe. Many salamanders also breathe with lungs and gills. And that's what you see, and that's what my headband is today, are the external gills. And this helps them breathe. And Lucy has hers, and that's what we see always moving. Mud puppies are a kind of salamander. They wiggle their gills to breathe underwater. Geckos cannot breathe through skin. Their lungs breathe air. Air enters and leaves through the gecko's nose. And you can see over here on the side view of Blaze that's exactly what it's doing. That's where he's breathing from, is his nose. Egg time. Rain falls on a spring night. A slender salamander crawls through the woods. She stops at a pond. Hundreds of salamanders have gathered to lay eggs. The salamander swims underwater. She lays a big clump of eggs and swims away. The eggs have no shells. A clear jelly covers them. Turtles, frogs, and insects eat most of the eggs. Geckos lay their eggs on land. A leaf-tailed gecko lays 2 eggs. She hides them under leaves. Then the mother gecko crawls away. Shells protect the eggs. A tokay gecko sticks her eggs to a rock. The soft shell hardens in the dry air. The parents guard the eggs until they hatch. The parents keep away predators. Predators are animals that hunt and eat other animals. And it says these tokay geckos protect their eggs. Red-backed salamanders also guard their eggs. Growing up, most young salamanders hatch from eggs in a pond or a stream. They live in water and breathe with gills, those external gills. Okay, and this is what, remember the life cycle we've spoken about. Lucy is stuck in the juvenile life cycle phase of a salamander. These young spotted salamanders grow in a pond. Geckos hatch from eggs that are on land. How does a baby crack its shell? It uses a special tooth called an egg tooth. Turtles have that too. Most baby salamanders look very different from their parents. The young have tail fins. These help them dart through the water. They hunt water insects and tadpoles. They grow quickly. A young gecko looks like a tiny adult. This fan-footed gecko sneaks up on spiders and insects. Then it grabs them. It hunts and eats all night. When the sun rises, it hides in a cave or in a crack in a large rock. The colors of the fan-footed gecko help it blend in with rocks. So I guess he's got a good, do you guys know what that word is? A good camouflage. Many salamanders change their shape as they grow. Their tail fin disappears. They lose their gills and grow lungs. They also shed their skin. They leave the water to live on land. The young blue-spotted salamander will change as it grows into an adult. So this is how it starts, and then it changes, and it looks like this as an adult. The gecko grows, its skin gets too tight. It pulls its old skin off with sharp teeth. It eats the old skin that it sheds. And I'll have to try to get a video. Blaze and Babette just went through a molt. And normally when they go through a molt, because they eat their skin, they don't eat that week because they get all the nutrients from their own skin. Keeping safe. A hungry bird lands near a gecko. The gecko turns so its fat tail faces the bird. The bird reaches for the gecko. Suddenly, the gecko's tail comes off. This gecko is just starting to grow a new tail. The bird pecks the wiggling tail. It does not see the gecko escape. In a few weeks, the gecko grows a new tail. And Blaze and Babette can do this. Sometimes you'll see their little tail wiggle if we're feeding them. And if there were a predator trying to eat it, they would do that, get the predator's attention with their tail, and then they would drop their tail and run off. So the predator would eat their tail while they went safely to hide somewhere else. Now with leopard geckos, their tail is where they store most of their nutrients and like fat. So it would be quite traumatic for them to lose their tail because it's like a bear getting ready for hibernation. Well, that tail is what gets them ready for their own hibernation when it gets to cold weather. Salamanders can take off their tails too. A dusk salamander's tail jerks and wiggles. A garter snake eats the tail, but the salamander escapes. It grows a new tail. Salamanders can also have special glands in their skin. The glands make bad tasting liquids or poisons. They can make the predator sick. A salamander's bright color warns about its poisons. Birds, leave this red elf alone. So both species can regenerate their tail. Most geckos hide from predators, but a tokay gecko attacks when it feels danger. It blows up its body and hisses. It opens its jaw, then it rushes at the animal and bites. It does not let go. The gecko skitter across rocks and sand. They climb trees and walls. Salamanders swim in ponds and streams. They creep under leaves. Can you tell these look-alikes apart? Which one's a salamander? Which one's the gecko? And this is actually a juvenile leopard gecko. So this is just like Blaze and Babette, just a different pattern. And then this one is an example of a salamander. Who am I? All right, look at the pictures below. Which ones are geckos and which ones are salamanders? Again, we know that salamanders have moist skin, like Luci the Axolotl, who is an amphibian. And we know that reptiles have dry skin, like the geckos, Blaze, and Babette. Fun facts. Imagine crawling up a wall and across the ceiling. A gecko can do that. Millions of tiny hairs cover the bottom of a gecko's feet. Each hair splits into smaller hairs. The hairs cling to almost any surface. Geckos squeak, click, croak, and bark. Their sounds help them find one another. They also tell other geckos to stay away. Salamanders are silent. They cannot hear sounds, but they feel the ground shake. That tells them when others are near. A Japanese giant salamander lives up to its name. It can grow up to the length of a person. Male giant salamanders guard the nest where eggs are laid. So remember that giant salamander from Asia is related to the hellbender that's often found in the Appalachian mountain streams. That is my dream salamander to catch one day. And that's all. I hope you enjoyed our lesson on salamanders versus geckos, and then checking in with our own geckos, Blaze and Babette, and seeing Luci, our example of a salamander in the larvae stage, our axolotl, and star, Miss Lucy. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. See you on the next one. Bye, guys.